Welcome to the Dr. John Char Holistic Health Show. We'll be offering a series of health shows for you which related to different toxic elements that can affect your body. And this time we're going to be talking about the dental toxicity, dental materials that are toxic to your health. And we're going to be talking about sort of a carryover of the last series when we talked about diabetes. And we're going to be show you some relationship to diabetes and also other degenerative diseases related to toxic fillings. So we have a guest today. Adrian is electrical nuclear engineer. Adrian, tell me something about yourself.
Well, my background in nuclear is my career in the shipyard for 25 years, and half of it was as a radiological engineer. I also spent 3 years as an environmental engineer for the National Guard. And this is a kind of diverse experience which has really helped me to look at problems from a multidiscipline viewpoint.
Well, you've had a lot of experience because your family had some problems with mercury fillings, and but you didn't know at that time. But because of your background, you investigated why she was getting ill at an early age, and nobody could figure out what it was.
Yes. Actually, it started in 1997 when my brother-in-law had multiple myeloma cancer, and we traced it down to mercury from his hair analysis. He has extremely high levels of mercury in his body, and he was not a big fish eater. And from me doing all this research from an engineering viewpoint, it also has helped me become aware of some problems of some of my family members. And I'm really committed to this issue, mainly because of this research, it has helped to save one of my family members' life.
You know, we talked about dental mercury fillings, and we've had the American Dental Association claim that there is no ill health to children under 6 years old, as well as pregnant women. But you know, there's many other issues that people don't know about the mercury. Why don't you say something about that, about what your findings were?
Well, basically, my findings were that we have to look at the body as a electromechanical object. It's like the way you look at a car. It's an electromechanical thing. It's not just flesh and bones, okay? And when you look at that, then what happens is now if things like the mercury amalgams become a source of electricity in your mouth that's not supposed to be there, that becomes a big problem. The manufacturer of the amalgams, okay, they have come out in the contraindication sheet that they supply with each box of the mercury amalgams. And they do caution not only about children under 6 and pregnant mothers, nursing mothers, do not use it for those people, but they also say do not use it for people with kidney problems, which many dentists don't ask patients, do you have kidney problems? Okay, they say do not use it for proximal or occlusal contact to dissimilar metals like next to gold crowns, because you don't want galvanic reactions, which does happen with it. What the ADA says or the FDA, it doesn't matter. That's something scientific that does happen.
Okay.
Okay. So electricity is a big thing and thanks to my background, I'm able to look at it from that perspective.
You know, we're going to be showing some of that information on our next show, but you know, the thing is that we also talk about that electrical current, but in relationship to the acupuncture meridians and the organs, there is a relationship of the teeth to the organs, and the electrical current that from the teeth can also affect the function and a cell well, the cell function of different organs.
Well, I totally agree with how the electricity and the fillings could affect the body. You have to picture your body like the electrical circuits in your house. You have a separate circuit for the refrigerator, a separate circuit for the stove, a separate circuit for the washer and the dryer, and etc. Well, your body is basically the same, very similar with all your different acupuncture meridians. You have, you know, the meridians going through each different tooth for different organs. And if you got electrical activity in the teeth, it will definitely affect that circuit.
So that's why I have patients, when I practiced for 47 years, I would have patients sometimes come in and complain about, you know, they've been to a physician and haven't found anything wrong with it, with all the tests. And it comes and goes, and we look at the teeth, and that teeth might have a big giant filling or things like that, and we remove that filling, and all of a sudden the organ feels better. I mean, that.
Yes, that would explain it, and it's really I don't fault the physicians, because they are trying to do the best they can under the circumstances of what they learn, but they look at the body more from the physiological side, and they're looking for, you know, a disease kind of thing where they can treat it with medications, but they are not looking at it from the electrical side. And like I said, if I looked at my car as only a mechanical thing and not a electromechanical, if I had a problem, there's some problems I may never be able to fix it if I don't look at the electrical side. So
actually, we will also show that these mercury fillings can emit vapor, which is dangerous to the brain and cells.
Yes.
And we're going to be showing a movie pretty soon on that by Dr. Eichmann, who did some research on that.
Yeah, I did get a chance to meet Dr. Eichmann.
Oh, okay.
I have attended 2 conferences for the organization called the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and I spent my own money doing it, and it was very educational and very enlightening. I wish every dentist and some doctors had that opportunity to go and open up their paradigms, you know, from what they learn in dental school.
Well, Dr. Eichmann came out with a film of his research and findings, and we're going to be showing that film right now, so we'll put the show on.
I believe the main, if not predominant, exposure to mercury in the public is from dentistry while placing and removing of amalgam fillings. Hello, I'm Dr. Roger Eichmann. I've lived most of my life here in Juneau and have practiced dentistry here for 26 years. As a child, I went out prospecting and panning of gold in the hills around here, and it gave me a perspective of geology. From geology, I learned the field test for mercury. I have applied this test in dentistry, and this is what this video is about.
Dr. Roger Eichmann graduated from Creighton Dental School in 1971 with honors. He served on the Alaska Board of Dental Examiners and has recently retired after practicing dentistry in the state of Alaska for more than 2 decades. He is also a member of the Alaska Miners Association and on their board of directors. He has served as president of the Juneau Mining District and has been active in prospecting for most of his life in the Juneau area. Dr. Eichmann offers the dental community a unique perspective on the amalgam controversy with this video. His knowledge of the prospector's field test for mercury is adapted to detect mercury emissions from different industrial environments. In the next 15 minutes, we will show how poisonous mercury gases in dentistry can become visible to the naked eye through fluorescence. We'll do this with the simple field test of mercury. The science of atomic absorption and the use of a black light makes this possible. Next, we will review the industrial uses of mercury in goldsmithing, dental lab castings, switches and thermometers, and reveal the total amount of mercury used in America. Then we will show how mixing silver and mercury in dentistry produces a high volume of poisonous mercury gas. The American Dental Association does not recognize that there is a release of mercury after the initial setting or that there is vaporization from the silver amalgam over time. There are alternatives, composite fillings, which are as good or better than traditional filling materials. Finally, we will see an interview with Dr. Eichmann, who has been researching the links between mercury in fillings and illness for 2 decades. In order to do a prospector's field test for mercury, one needs a fluorescent screen of some sort. Any well-laundered white cloth, such as a t-shirt, will do. The other major component is a mineral black light. This is a long-wave black light with a purple filter and white fluorescent tubes. This is a short-wave mineral black light with a filter and clear fluorescent tube. It is critical that you use a clear tube, not one with the white powder on the inside. There are several black lights on the market that work very well. They range anywhere from $150 to $350. The one that is being demonstrated here is a 12-volt short-wave black light that breaks down, showing the fluorescent tube. The clear tube contains vaporized or gaseous mercury, some of which has solidified to form the small silver-colored beads as seen in this snapshot. When you turn on the short-wave black light, electricity goes through the tube and energizes the mercury. The energized mercury emits light at different frequencies, and the purple filter separates out the visible light, allowing only ultraviolet black light to be transmitted. This black light, striking another object that can absorb black light, will sometimes retransmit it as a visible light. This is called fluorescence. For example, the whiter-than-white brighteners in laundry soap are fluorescent dyes. As you see here, when viewed with the short-wave black light, these soap dyes fluoresce blue. However, viewing an object with black light is not the same as seeing an object with reflected light from the visible light spectrum. With fluorescence, objects are absorbing atoms to become visible to the naked eye, rather than reflecting light from the visible light spectrum. Fluorescence is not reflectivity. Using the principle called atomic absorption, we can show how the short-wave black light can help us see mercury vapor with the naked eye. The only gas that will absorb exactly the same frequency of light that is emitted by an atom of mercury is another atom of mercury. Since the excited mercury atoms in the black light become gaseous and filtered, they are extremely sensitive and 100% accurate in revealing mercury atoms in the path of the black light. When we take a mineral containing mercury, such as cinnabar, which is mercury sulfide, and place a small chip of it on a spatula and add heat at our lab, what appears to be smoke can be seen with our short-wave black light. What we are actually seeing is the smoke-like shadow cast on the fluorescent screen of mercury vapors as they rise from the heated cinnabar. The atoms of mercury released by the heat absorb the atoms of mercury being transmitted by the black light. The result? A visible shadow. We will use this field test for mercury to detect mercury emissions from different common industrial environments. Jewelers and goldsmiths are exposed to mercury. In making nugget jewelry, for example, the natural nuggets are soldered onto a background matrix, a very common practice throughout the United States. What is not commonly recognized is that almost all natural gold has mercury absorbed into it. On heating of the gold, the mercury is boiled off and exposes the goldsmith to vaporized mercury. Hoods, or vapor-limiting protections, are not commonly used in jewelry manufacture. The gold is directly heated and soldered in the open air without any protection. Unfortunately, As you can see in a black light test at our lab, a great deal of mercury is vaporized when natural gold is heated, exposing the jeweler to a highly toxic gas. Another exposure is in dental lab castings, where technicians may remelt old gold to make dental crowns and dental work. To heat and repair old crowns, such as contacts or a hole in a crown, they take a crown that has been in a person's mouth for many years, heat it up, and add gold solder to it. Here you can see, in a black light test in our lab, the mercury coming off in quite large amounts after being heated. Other minor exposures to mercury may occur from the breaking of fluorescent light bulbs, to the spilling of mercury from broken electric mercury switches or mercury-containing thermometers. These are fairly small exposures compared to one of the most significant exposures to mercury, amalgam fillings. It is Dr. Eichmann's opinion that the placement and removal of mercury fillings exposes more people to mercury than all other sources put together. The U.S. Geological Survey Mineral Commodity Summaries as of February 1997 lists the United States consumption of mercury at approximately 400 tons per year, with 7% for dental supplies. This is used in silver amalgam fillings, which traditionally contain close to 50% mercury when placed in the tooth. Dentistry uses mercury by taking a powdered silver alloy and mixing it with a couple drops of mercury. This is packed into a hole in the tooth. Dentistry currently places about 28 tons of mercury a year in people's mouths. What is not generally recognized is the amount of mercury exposure during the process or in removing of old fillings. In mixing of the silver, we use what is called a triturator. An amalgam capsule is placed in the triturator and turned on. It shakes the powder and the mercury together and mixes them. As you can see in our black light test, when you open the capsule, large amounts of mercury are vaporized due to the heat of trituration and the fresh active mercury. This fuming mixture is now placed directly into the mouth and packed in place. It takes several days for the mercury to dissolve completely into the silver and become fully amalgamated. During this time, it is going to vaporize. The American Dental Association does not recognize that there is a release of mercury after the initial setting, or that there is vaporization from the silver amalgam over time. If you take an extracted tooth with an old amalgam filling and just scratch on it, you can see the mercury vaporize. Notice this is not just while scratching on it, but it just keeps on coming, even a while after the surface has been polished or scraped on with a knife at room temperature. Keep in mind the vapor pressure of mercury increases with temperature. Every 10 degrees Celsius rise in temperature almost doubles the vapor pressure. It does not go to zero until it is below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Therefore, any amalgam in the mouth which is at body temperature is going to continue to degas as long as it is present. It will be more active after chewing or dental polishing or any manipulation from a dentist in a dental procedure. A simple proof of this is to take an old amalgam filling and have it assayed for percentage mercury content. Dr. Eichmann has seen assays as low as 27% mercury. Since fillings are placed at around 50%, then a drop below 30% mercury means 40% of the original mercury evaporated out. Added exposure would be from corrosion and normal attrition or wear of the filling. Other problems occur with silver fillings. In this patient, note a silver filling here and what appears to be a cracking tooth. This is typical of silver fillings as they tend to expand with age and show metal deformation and black corrosion. The buildup of internal pressure inside the cavity puts pressure outward on the walls of the tooth and many times will crack the tooth. Fortunately, we have alternatives to silver fillings that are as good or better than traditional materials. These are called composite filling materials. They are a mixture of powdered ceramics and plastic, and as time goes on, companies are producing better ones. However, when Dr. Eichmann first started working with posterior composites, there were no acceptable materials. He took an anterior material called isopaste, which does not show up on an X-ray. He mixed it with some powdered silver and placed it in this tooth in 1977. In 1997, 20 years later, you can see the original carving. The contacts are good, and the X-ray looks good. Even though it is a dark color, this is a fully acceptable posterior restoration. It has been in service for 20 years with no appreciable wear. This is the oldest posterior composite that Dr. Eichmann can document anywhere in the world. This filling was done with a total etch technique with total enamel bonding, long before such techniques for posterior composites were generally accepted. The present generation of composites look better, and they should wear just as well, if not better.
Okay.
Okay, now you've seen how Dr. Eichmann talked about the mercury vapors coming out of your fillings. You didn't know that, huh? It's also basically, you'll see under microscope a lot of times beads of mercury on a high microscope, where beads can be on top of the fillings, especially if you have something hot. If you ate something hot, and you can see that the mercury rises to the top. So when you have malcolms in your mouth for a long period of time, doesn't mean that you don't have any mercury according to the American Dental Association, but evidence through research has shown that you see mercury on the top of your old fillings. Now, you know, mercury fillings has also been known through research that we found out that it can cause some of the Alzheimer's. Dr. Boyd Haley, a chemist out of Kentucky, has over 1,000 patients that he has shown that it's been shown that the mercury has been lodged into the neurons, the brain cells, and also has eaten up what we call the myelin sheaths, which conducts the current going from one cell to another in the brain. And also, there's some evidence also of multiple sclerosis. But Adrian, you've heard about all the different types of, could be different kind of diseases related to mercury fillings. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, the mercury is migratory and bioaccumulative in the body. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's a bioaccumulative toxin, which is really bad because once it gets in, it does what I call a stick and eat thing. Mm-hmm. You know, like it sticks on the myelin sheath, mm-hmm. and then the body's going to try to protect it from the toxin. It starts attacking the myelin sheath to, you know, and that could be a problem with your multiple sclerosis or Lou Gehrig's disease and other central nervous system. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's one of the really bad things, that it sticks and eat. But if it gets into the brain, it sticks and eat, then you might end up with Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Okay, or you also could have big problems with what part of the brain it affects, you know, your central nervous system. And if it also causes, it could cause central nervous system disorders that affect mobility and things like that.
Well, you know, there's some question about proving that you have different mercury in the body, okay? And there's some tests that we have. You use the urine test, the saliva test, the fecal blood test. And now we have what we call the galvanic skin resistant test by the ZytoPro company, where we can put on computers and we can actually find out different metal toxicities in the body. So why don't you say a few things about that?
Okay, as far as testing, when I first started in way back in 1997, mm-hmm. the only thing that available at that time were like hair analysis. Mm-hmm. Hair analysis is okay for a it's a quick and dirty thing, like taking your blood pressure. Of course, we all know your blood pressure could change the next 5 minutes. But hair analysis is a good general indicator, and another indicator is on your fingernails. And many people not aware of this. They call it Mies lines. And if you see these fuzzy horizontal white lines going across your fingernails, that could be another indicator of mercury toxicity.
Oh, good. So we're going to be talking more on the next show. That we're going to be going more in detail and show you the different areas where even different dental materials like gold and porcelain, and even the partial dentures you wear or the dentures you wear can create toxic elements to your body. In other words, you can have mercury in there too. And so we're going to elaborate more on that. But so thank you, Adrian, for being a guest here, and we'll see you on the next show.
Okay.
We'll discuss more in detail about toxicity, dental toxicity in your mouth.
Okay, can I just make one
Sure.
more statement? I just want to caution the audience is that, you know, as we discuss this subject about toxic dental materials, don't want you to become paranoid and start running to your dentist and say, get all these things out of my mouth. You know, that's probably the worst thing you can do without doing adequate research and consulting the health professionals and doing it properly and safely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good. And so, like I said, we're going to be talking more about that and go more into detail about how these toxic elements in the mouth can create cell destructions and ultimate degenerative diseases. Okay? So stay tuned to the next show.